They tell you that demons come from hell to claim your home. But what if the monster clawing at your walls, the one whispering your name in the dark, wasn't an invader at all? What if it was born from your own blood, your own fear? My name is Jack. In 1972, my wife Janet and I thought we'd found our forever home. It was a duplex on Chase Street in a quiet Pennsylvania town. It was old, sure, but it was ours. We moved in with our 2 young daughters, and Janet's parents moved into the other side of the house. For the first year, it was perfect. It was the American dream. We were happy. We were safe. Or so we thought. The first sign was a stain. A dark, ugly blotch that appeared on a freshly cleaned carpet. We scrubbed it, but it always came back. Then came the small things. Tools from my toolbox would go missing, only to reappear in the most unusual places. The television once burst into flames for no reason the fire department could ever find. We explained it all away. Old house, faulty wiring, forgetfulness. You can rationalize anything when the alternative is too terrifying to consider. But the house didn't let us live in denial for long. The sound started next. At night, we'd hear footsteps pacing in the empty room above us. A scratching sound would come from inside the walls, like a trapped animal, frantic and angry. Then came the smells. A putrid, sulfurous odor would fill a room without warning, so thick you could taste it, and then vanish just as quickly. My eldest daughter, Dawn, was the first to see something. She came into our bedroom one night, her face pale white. She said she saw people in her room, dark figures that just stood in the corner, watching her. We told her it was just a nightmare. What else could we say? How do you tell your child that you're terrified in your own home, too? Then the activity turned violent. It was like a switch had been flipped. An unseen force shook our bed so violently one night it felt like an earthquake. We'd feel an icy cold presence brush past us on the stairs. Doors would slam shut with impossible force. But the worst was when it touched us. Janet was thrown from the kitchen into the living room by an invisible shove. I saw it with my own eyes. 1 second she was by the sink. The next she was on the floor, gasping for air 15 feet away. I felt it myself. A hand, cold as the grave, wrapping around my throat in the dead of night. I woke up choking, fighting something that wasn't there. Scratches would appear on our bodies, long red welts that burned like fire, often in sets of 3. The entity, whatever it was, seemed to have a sickening intelligence. It knew our fears. It fed on them. We were devout Catholics, and the demon, as we now called it, mocked our faith. It would bang on the walls in a rhythmic, blasphemous pattern whenever we tried to pray. We found one of our crucifixes snapped in half, thrown across the room. The absolute rock bottom, the moment the terror turned into a violation I can barely speak of even now, was the sexual assaults. Yes, you heard me right. I would be pinned to the bed, paralyzed, while a succubus, a grotesque female form, assaulted me. And a shadowy male figure did the same to Janet. It was designed to inflict the maximum amount of shame, to break our spirits, to shatter the sanctity of our marriage. We were prisoners, tortured not just physically, but spiritually. Desperate, we reached out to the only people we thought could help. Ed and Lorraine Warren, the paranormal investigators. They came to our house with their equipment and their holy water. Lorraine, a clairvoyant, walked through our home, and her face turned ashen. She confirmed our worst fears. She said our house was infested, not by one spirit, but by 4. 3 were minor, but the fourth was a powerful, ancient demon. It had attached itself to our family. The Warrens tried to cleanse the house. They played religious music, they challenged the entity, they prayed, and for their efforts, the demon answered with fury. A mirror flew off the wall and shattered. A deep, guttural growl echoed from the basement. I remember Ed Warren looking at me, his face grim, and saying, "Jack, this is one of the strong ones." The church finally agreed to an exorcism. The priest came. a man of strong faith, but you could see the fear in his eyes. As he began the rites, our house descended into chaos. The walls groaned. Every light in the house flickered and blew out. A freezing wind tore through the sealed rooms. I heard a voice, a deep, raspy sound that came from nowhere and everywhere at once, screaming obscenities in Latin. The exorcism seemed to work. For about 3 days, there was peace. A profound, beautiful silence we hadn't felt in years. We thought we were free, but it came back. And it was angrier than ever. The torment was relentless, worse than before. We had only managed to make it mad. It was then we knew. We couldn't win. This thing owned the house. We had to leave. We packed what we could and we fled, leaving our home, our memories, everything behind on Chase Street. We just ran. For years after, we lived in peace. The nightmares faded. We rebuilt our lives. I always believed we had escaped a devil that lived in the wood and plaster of that old house. But then, years later, I was talking to my daughter, Dawn, all grown up by then. I asked her if she remembered the dark people in her room. She looked at me with a strange sadness and said, "Dad, I had those nightmares long before we ever moved to Chase Street." And then it hit me, like a punch to the gut. I started thinking back. The most violent periods of activity, the fires, the physical attacks, they always happened when I was under immense stress, when I'd lost a job, when money was tight, when my own temper was at its worst. Janet once said that the air in the house felt thick with anger right before an attack. My anger. The demon had whispered my name in the dark. It had used my deepest fears against me. It had mirrored my own suppressed rage. What if the Warrens were wrong? What if the entity wasn't some ancient evil from the depths of hell? What if it was something we had brought with us? Something I had created? An unconscious projection of my own turmoil, given form and fury by the unique energy of that old house. We didn't flee a demon. We just fled the pressure cooker that was allowing my own monster to boil over. We didn't exorcise a devil from our house. We just finally learned to starve the one inside of me. We spend our lives looking for the devil in the shadows, in the ghost stories, in the dark corners of the world. But sometimes, the most dangerous monster is the one that's been living inside you all along, just waiting for the right house to let it out.